And now for the next DIY project, the backyard gate. I take this poor fella, he's been here since the house was made. He's about 40 odd years old now, a little over 40, 42, 43 years old. He's been stripped and painted and reworked and matched and fixed and glued many times over. But I think since we're here on the pandemic, time's off, I can go through, take this poor well-worn gate and actually do a Steve Austin. Make him better than he was before. Rebuild it. This gate was made in 1978 when the house was built, was put in. It's got nice solid wood, but as I come across where it's been stripped and repainted multiple times, some of this, it's very questionable whether it's dry rot or if it's just peeling paint from the sub layers and coming up. Just to make everything nice and copacetic, I'll be rebuilding the gate, rebuilding the entire front panel, the little T-bar, the sides, the gate straps. The only thing I might reuse will be that gate hinge spring here. And off we go. So here's a quick picture of the sketch that I did for the gate, the basic dimensions. It's 35.5 inches wide for the gate. There are 2x4s on each side. It shows the approximate location of where I want to place the 2x4s to make the pattern. Make sure I made a note, leave it a 1/2 inch gap to come up from the top. The sidewalk's here, and then from the gap 6 inches up I want to start the base of the first 2x4. Let it go from there. Set the other one up at the hinge strap point that I choose. Then I'll take this piece of wood. I measured the original gate. It's not at 45 degrees or 60 or anything fancy. They just did a, looks about right, we'll put it here and then trim the corners so it fits. And that's the same thing I'm going to do. So here's the small table I'm going to use to work on while I sand down the fence post slats, get rid of the extra trim work that needs to be done. The 1x2 pieces are here. Okay, now that I've got some of this sanded, the top boards have been sanded down. They're a lot smoother. The bottom ones you can still see all have the splinters and dirt and crud and grime and all kinds of stuff that the sanding will help get rid of. So just gonna sand the other two panels, these bottom two, and that'll be good. Want to get rid of the rest of the splinters and things like this down here, the little splinters, stuff like that. Sanding gets rid of that. So when I paint it and prime it first, it'll stick, it'll have a good clean surface to adhere to. There won't be a lot of dirt and grime left for austerity, which I don't need to seal that in for future archaeologists to find underneath a layer of paint. It'll be just clean wood. Okay, now I've finished all the sanding. I set the slats side by side to check them, make sure they're all going to butt up nice and evenly together so there aren't any gaps along the seams with any warped or sideways turning pieces of wood. I can set up the 2x4 6 inches up, clip that together, and start building my gate. But before I do that, I want to prime everything. So, a little painting. So to make it easier to paint the edges, I clamped all the boards together so it can be painted along the thin edge of the wood first. I'll do the edges and the ends, turn it over when the primer's dry, paint the other side. Then I can lay them out flat and it'll be pretty quick to paint the front and back of each slat. So the project should go fairly quickly. But just to make it easier, I clamped the edges into a big row. Just makes it so much easier to paint all those edges one time. Gets it finished in minutes instead of an hour's extra work just to do the edges or more. And doing it this way, where usually I would do the edges and get run down the sides, this minimizes the risk of the run down the sides of these pieces of wood. So the board Stays nice, easily primed, and ready to go. So it only took a couple of minutes just to paint the entire edges of both of these. It was like painting a flat board. Gave it a few minutes to let the primer dry, and then flipped it over and painted the other half. Real quick and easy. Okay, got the primer on that side of the slats, got the edges primed. That is all set, working together. As soon as this dries, I'll flip them over, prime the other side. These are just the side pieces on the little bit of the gate. I'm in the middle of priming and prepping and painting them, and I'll get their next coat of brown, and I'll get all 4 sides done. Then I'll swing over and get all of these painted brown and be ready to start assembling the thing. Hopefully it'll look sort of like this in real life. And I'm also taking the fascia or faceboard slats and doing the edges of these so I can paint those, and everything will be pre-painted. All the pieces will be nice and brown, so when I start putting the gate together and assemble the side parts to replace the existing gate, it'll all be primed, painted, and done. And I've got the gate slats painted a nice mission brown on one side. I've still got to flip them over and paint the other side brown. Then I can start laying out the gate, put the 2x4s across it, cut it to length and width, put in the bracing, and get it all ready to mount. And on the other side, the little trim pieces and the boards for hanging it are now done on all sides. So all I have to do is cut them to length, put in the holes, and it's all going to go together pretty quick after that. So off to let the paint dry, and instead of watching the paint dry, I'm gonna go do something else. Back up. I've got the backboard bracing put on now, bolted down in place. I added an extra board here so I can change the way that the new hinges are going to fit and hold the doors. This is, as I said before, put in, and it looks about right, and it just fits perfectly on there. So the back gate's going to come out real nice. I bolted the main part of the gate assembled. I still need to cut the top here and make the little scallop motion. The plank on the far edge I had to cut in half so it would be the correct width that I wanted. And the back is braced up really, really well. When I get the thing flipped over and attach the hinges, I'll show you what it's going to look like. The side panel, little wood pieces over here, are also basically primed and have an initial coat of paint, so they'll be ready to bolt to the concrete or the block wall, and then I can hang the gate on that. Got the gate back up onto the sawhorses. The little template is on the top, made it out of cardboard, so I've got the correct arc. Drew a line in Sharpie. It's higher than I want it to be, but it does look right. I decided to center the arc, or the little angel's wings, whatever you're going to call it, in the center between these two boards instead of in the center of the gate. But that's just my choice, so that's where the line will fall naturally for the eyes. Once this is done, I draw it in, I flip it over, draw the Sharpie line on the other side, and I've got it at the exact height I want. Take the jigsaw, cut off the top, then I can stain, paint, and go get ready to hang this thing. Got the top of the gate cut with the jigsaw. The arc came out very nice, very clean. Came across here. Now I'm going to attach the hinge straps, and I've already marked where I wanted them. I'm going to set them in right here, because I know the gate opens inward like this. The spacing isn't going to be too much of a critical item. So all I'm going to do is lean this down at 90 degrees, put it where I wanted, and mount the hinge strap here, and the other hinge strap down here on the bottom. Got the gate hung up. It's looking good. I'm kind of happy with the way it's coming together. The old sidebar posts, which I had here, as you can see, are pretty well worn out with age, but they were lag bolted into the wall. The holes had been drilled, they were countersunk so the bolts could go into those. I tried lining them up from the outside. It was a little bit of a pain trying to keep everything lined up, so I tried an old trick. Took some baking soda, put it on the back of the bolts of each bolt head or bolt stem, and then made sure that this was plumb. Tapped the wood back and it gave me a perfect little white circle of where I needed to drill for each bolt. That came out beautifully, and then a little countersink to be able to get the wood in there, and it's hung up and it's nice and done. Because the top concrete fence here isn't plumb, that was a little bit of a pain, but I've got the door hung up so it's close here, wide on the gap on the bottom, little trim piece, take care of it from the front, but it's pretty much plumb along the gate side, which is what it needs to be, and I'm kind of happy with the way this is starting to turn out. There we go, nice new hung gate. It's completed, it's finished. Shy of one coat of paint, but don't need that on the video. Reused the kickstop down here. Gave it a new rubber pad, but everything else is new. All the little mounting wood that goes in the side and it's bolted to the concrete, the little trim pieces, all the extra wood on the top to reinforce it and brace it more. Everything's good.